Okay, today we are going to talk about how to improve ACT scores. Now, some of you will be students looking at how to improve your ACT scores, and a lot of you will be parents trying to figure out how to help your child have a better ACT score. This is obviously something that a lot of people are trying to get just a better ACT score, one or two more points. My name's Dave Bobbitt. I'm the president of Awesome Scores, and that's what we focus on is how to help basically students get a better ACT score. So sometimes you may have a 17 and you're trying to get a 19 just to get into school. Or maybe you have a 28 and you know that a 30 gets you a lot better scholarships. We have students that have had 4 points better. We've had students that have 1 or 2 points better and they're very happy. It just depends on how they come to us. If they already have really good scores in 2 subjects and we're trying to focus on the other 2, sometimes they're already maxed out and we've had students that had perfect scores in the other 2 subjects and they needed help in math and science maybe. So it just depends on how you come to us. But let's talk about the important things about how to get a better score on the ACT and ways that you can accomplish that. It's certainly something where it is a test where you can do a refresher course and you can get out and get a better score. But there's a specific way that you really need to do it. And we're going to talk about that a little today and see if we can maybe help some people. We want to break down the ACT and take a look at exactly what you're really doing. What the test is, what it's not, how to prepare for it, mentally, physically, that kind of thing. And then you definitely want to break down each subject individually. So we're going to be looking at, math and science, English, and reading. Of course, there's an optional writing section that one of our instructors would work with students privately on, but in a group setting where we do webinars and really try to help a lot of people at one time, or at least more people at one time, we try to focus on these 4 subjects. Okay, so that's really we don't want to make it more complicated than that. This is one of my favorite quotes from Albert Einstein. It says, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. So I've found this to be true when we're trying to take students and take them from one level to another. The test is, in our opinion, basically a pretty simple test. It is a test of things that you learned in high school, and they're not necessarily complicated, but it's wide ranging. So it may be something that you haven't done in a while. So that's why you really need a refresher course right before you take the test. That's what we feel. And we don't try to make things overly complicated. There are a lot of different ways that you can prepare for the ACT, from going to a big company and spending, $3,000 to $5,000 on a class that is one-on-one, and you spend, quite a few hours working with somebody and working on the ACT. We don't have any problem with that at all. It's not what we do, but we don't have any problem with it, because if it gets you a college scholarship, it's probably worth the money. For us, we are really just a refresher course. We spend about 6 hours with our students, and we don't feel like you need much more than that, or let's just say it would be hard to retain much more than that. So the weekend before each ACT, we do 3 2-hour webinars spread over 2 days. And that's what we do. Basically, we're going to go in and say, listen, this is going to be on the test. Here's an example of what the type of things, here's how many, this is what we do. But I'm just going to give you a little bit of example of some of the things we do in our class, and maybe this will help you on a free basis, just to kind of give you an idea of things that you need to focus on and look at when you're preparing for the ACT. When we talk about what is the ACT, it is a college entrance test. And it just basically determines how much of your high school education you remember. It's as simple as that. It's not an intelligence test. and they use it to do a couple of things. They use it to decide maybe what school you can get into. If you get a scholarship, it could help you get a scholarship for sure. And maybe if you need a remedial course in mathematics or English or whatever your weakest subject is, it's possible that you might not be on the collegiate level to step in. So you really need something to get you going. So that's what the ACT is used for. When you're talking about preparing for the ACT, we talk about mental preparation, meaning that you have to have a plan in place. Maybe you take a practice test at a certain time, and just have your mental attitude correct so that when you walk in there, you're not overwhelmed. We'll break that down, and we talk about that obviously a little bit more in depth in our class. And physical preparation, people definitely underestimate this, but the more your body physically is in tune, it makes you mentally more aware, and it makes everything a lot easier when you're taking the test. So we always tell people, basically keep a normal routine. If you are a basketball player and you play basketball a couple of days a week, still stay on that routine and stay physically active, and that will help you stay mentally sharp. And then general test taking strategies. We're going to go over in our class. We're going to go over general test taking strategies that would help you no matter what test you're taking. It's not specific to math or science or English or reading. It's just general test taking strategies that are good to have when you're taking any test. Those are things that when we're just looking at the ACT, okay? Now, when we break down the ACT itself, you're going to know that there are 4 multiple choice tests, okay? English is 75 questions in 45 minutes. Now, we have a lady that teaches English and reading for us. She works at a local university here, has a master's degree in technical writing. That's her thing. That's what she likes. That's what she loves teaching. And she's really good at expressing the thoughts and helping you with English and reading. For me, I teach math and science. So I have kind of a different interest, and what I love to do is more on that line. So, we have only 2 people. It's just me teaching math and science, and it is her teaching English and reading. So when you sign up for our class, you're only going to get 2 people. You're not going to get just whoever random instructor is or whatever. You'll know exactly who's going to be teaching the class. And she's going to have ideas on English and reading that I would never have. Because to me, English, 75 questions in 45 minutes, that seems like, I remember, this has been many, many years ago. I remember taking the ACT, and I remember not having enough time in English because I tried to break down every sentence and think it out. And, there are time-taking techniques that you have to adhere to. And at the time, I had never had an ACT prep class. This was, maybe 1980 or somewhere around in there. It was a long time ago. Math, you're going to have 60 questions in 60 minutes. Now, that's something that I personally teach, and we take a retired ACT test and start out with question number 1, and I'll bring it up on my screen just like I'm doing this. I'll show you an example of it in a little bit of how we work it out, what it sounds like, what it looks like. And then, but 60 questions in 60 minutes is nice because you have 1 minute per question. And if you're 30 minutes into the test and you only have 20 questions done, you're not on track. But if you have 40 questions done, you're doing well, and you'll have a little time at the end to go back. So those kind of things we talk about. Reading is 40 questions in 35 minutes. Again, it's, you don't have a lot of time for some of these things. And science is 40 questions in 35 minutes. Now, I teach the science portion myself. And all of these things, between me and Miss Alexander, we have done a lot of research on how can we best. For me, I looked at science, and I looked at other people's ways of teaching science, and science was actually my best score on the test, even though I was a math major in college. This was before I went to college, but science is one of those that people run out of time because there are 7 different passages you have to read and answer, questions, 40 questions in 35 minutes. It's not like you have a lot of time to read all that, but we have specific strategies for that. And I really feel like science could be your best score, even if you don't know much science, because you're not really tested on science that much. It's more just charts and graphs and that kind of thing. But the test is in this order every time. This amount of questions, this amount of time, and then we break those down to a little bit more. You basically know exactly what type of math questions you're going to get, what type of science questions you're going to get, that kind of thing. So one of the things we do is we provide, this is just a little example of things we do in our class, and maybe this might help you a little bit, but we'll do things like this for math. When we talk about some of the math is really pretty simple stuff. Well, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. That's what we called it when we were in school, but this is order of operations. And we'll give an example of it, and I'll write on the screen and we'll talk about things. But this is just something that I have in my math portion to give you kind of an example. And then we will actually have a problem that'll be like this one. And I'm just going to give you an example of how I might, work a problem out in the, I'm having to get a pen here. In this is what it would look like. This is what it would sound like. Okay. The cost of a hamburger and a soft drink together is $2.10. The cost of 2 hamburgers and a soft drink together is $3.50. What's the cost of a drink? Now this is, multiple equations, and we want to work these things together. Okay. So let's say a drink, we'll call that D, and we'll call a hamburger H. Okay. So let's make an equation for the first one. Let's say a hamburger and a drink together is $2.10. Okay. So we got a drink plus a hamburger equals $2.10. Okay. Now, I'm sorry, I've changed screens accidentally because of my pen. Bear with me just one second. Okay. And then I'm going to use another pen. A little bit easier to use on this one. Okay. Then the other equation is the cost of 2 hamburgers and 1 soft drink is $3.50. So let's do this. We got 1 drink plus 2 hamburgers equals $3.50. Okay, now we have 2 equations and we have 2 variables. So basically what we're trying to do is we'll use the subtraction method on this, and we'll subtract the bottom one. Remember that if you have something on one side and something on the other side and they're equivalent, if you want to solve the equation, you can subtract something from both sides and make the equation look a little different, and it will still be true. So in this case, what we want to do is we want to subtract this is equal to this. So we're going to subtract this from this side and this from this side, and that's going to get us down to 1 equation. The reason we do that is we want to get rid of this D and find out what H is, okay? So we're going to subtract this bottom one from the top one, so D from D is nothing. And then H from 2H would leave me an H here, okay? Now subtract this, and I've come up with $1.40. So a hamburger is $1.40, okay? And then we just plug it back in here. We take this initial, or this one, it's D plus H equals 210, right? And then we just add, we know the hamburger is $1.40, so we got D plus $1.40 equals 210. And we subtract $1.40 from each side, and the drink is 70 cents. Okay, there's the answer right there, C. So the reason I show you this is I just want to show you what it looks like when we solve a problem, how we might explain it. This is our emphasis on this is not at all to try to teach you anything you don't know necessarily. What we're trying to do is just remind you of things that you should have been exposed to, and maybe you remember it, maybe you don't. Maybe you're in calculus now, or you're in trig, and they're asking you a pre-algebra question or an algebra 1 question possibly, and that's been 7th or 8th grade since you had it, so it's a little more difficult to answer something like that. So that would be an example of what we would do. Now, let's say let's back up just a second and tell you that I'd mentioned how expensive ACT prep course is. One of the things we do is we want everybody to be able to afford this, because we think every single student that takes the ACT really needs a refresher course. and it should help them get a few points better, and that might be the difference between a scholarship or not, but it's definitely going to be better for you. Our class is $199, and it's for 6 hours. So, and it's live. So as opposed to this is just a recording, what would happen if you take our class is you go in and you'll have a little control panel on your screen, and you'll be seeing it just like we are now, but it'll be live, and you'll be able to type in, you know, for instance, on that last one, could you work that problem again? Or where did you get the D? Or what does S stand for? Whatever, you know, whatever the question is, it'll pop it up on my screen. I'll look at it and I'll say, Sally in San Diego wants to know, where did we get the D? And I'll go back over it, and it's live and interactive. Now, it feels like it's just me and you. It feels like I'm talking to you and there's nobody else watching. But in reality, there will be somebody in Mississippi and somebody in Louisiana. There will be students in other parts of the country watching at the same time. So a lot of times, even if you can't really think of the question you want to ask, there will be somebody that will. And we've taught the classes many times, so we know what kind of questions, and we try to cover those in advance. So if you want to do the class, right now we have, we have a class every time before the weekend before the test, usually, sometimes 2 weeks before, but generally it's the weekend before the test. So go to awesomescores.com and click on class schedule, and that'll show you the next 2 classes that are coming up. So, you know, if the June 11th class is coming up like it is for this one, we will be teaching June the 4th and the 5th. And the schedule is online. All you have to do is click on it. And when you click on it, it's going to take you to PayPal. You pay, and that'll automatically send you an email as an invitation to the class. You'll have a welcome letter. You'll click on the register here, and then that will take you to GoToWebinar. And GoToWebinar will get your name and email address, and they're going to email you invitations to each class. You won't have to worry about anything. It's going to come straight to you. You click on that maybe, 15 minutes before the class starts. And then I'll come on and say, you're in the right place. I'll check my audio, my video, make sure everything looks good, and we'll get started on time. It's very effective. It's very inexpensive, and it's very efficient. So we really feel like it's almost brilliant in its simplicity, but we are able to help a lot of people. What we'd ask you to do is tell your friends about it, because this is something that word of mouth is the way that we get our word out. We try to do these type of videos. But in any case, I'm going to go a little bit more into what we were talking about today. I just wanted to let you know about what we do. And if you want the full program, you're certainly, we'd love to have you, for sure. The science section is another class that I teach. And it's very interesting, because when in the science section, there really is not any science knowledge that you need going into it. In other words, if they're going to talk about hemoglobin or any, planetary revolution, anything, there's all going to be things that the information is in the test or in a chart or graph. Okay, so we're going to talk about, there are 3 different passage types, and that's only 3 that you're going to see. We're going to talk about what the passage types are and take a look at those. They are data representation, research summary, and conflicting viewpoint. Those are the 3 passage types that you're going to see. So we take a look at data representation, we break it down, we take an example of one, and I show you how you should tackle these problems and tackle the passages and how to get the answers and not run out of time. That's the big thing on science section. But in my opinion, I've said this before, and I say it when I teach the class, I really think science could be your best score. And a lot of times it's your worst score, because you run out of time. And there's a lot of the vernacular terms they use may be confusing to people. So we talk about how to get past that, how to make things work in science. Okay, the English test is taught by Miss Alexander. She'll talk about, grammar, how to really understand the English test so that you're not running out of time and you're really making good decisions. She's excellent on this particular portion of it. And if English or reading, we just had a student that their composite score went from a 21 to a 25 in their last test, but their reading went from a 23 to a 30. I mean, it was an amazing jump, because usually it's very hard to get that much better in in any particular section. So reading strategies, she's going to talk to you about how to read, the balance of, optimizing your time on the reading section. She'll talk to you about that kind of stuff. Okay. So if you can stay simple and you can use these tools and strategies, your score will improve. And that's all we're looking for. I was a math major in college, and I started tutoring college algebra in 1989. And then I started actually going back down to pre-algebra, algebra 1, algebra 2, all the way through college algebra. And I've pretty much done those off and on. And then what happened was one of my students said, I'm getting ready for the ACT and having a little trouble remembering stuff. Well, she was in the 9th grade when I tutored her in algebra 2, very bright student. And when her mother called me and said she needed help with the ACT, I was surprised, because when I went back and looked at the ACT, I realized that 55% of the test is pre-algebra, elementary algebra, and intermediate algebra. So no algebra 2 on the test at all. So I started thinking, well, she's a junior now. It's probably been at least 7th or 8th grade since she did pre-algebra or any of that. So I could see where she really needed some help with just remembering things, not things she didn't know or hasn't been exposed to, just recall what we have. So listen, I don't want to take much longer on this. I just want to extend the invitation to everybody. You can go to awesomescores.com. That's our website. Again, it's a small group. You're going to get me teaching math and science. You're going to get Miss Alexander English and reading, and it's going to feel like it's one-on-one. It's going to be the best $199 you ever spent. And we have programs for if you have organization in your school where, like, let's say it's the band or the cheerleaders or whatever, and they're trying to raise funds. We have an affiliate program where you get in touch with us. We tell you a little bit about what we do and when we're teaching. You can put it on your Facebook, and if somebody signs up for the class and they say, I heard about it through so-and-so band, then we have a referral fee that we give them. It's $30 for everybody you send us. So it becomes a fundraiser for them. It's really excellent. But the bottom line is, if you want to get the full program and you really want to put your heart in this and do the best you can, go to awesomescores.com and go to class schedule, pick out whichever test you're going to take, which we only put the next 2 on. So if you're taking it, at the end of next year, we won't have the class posted yet. But all you have to do is click on Buy Now. It's going to take you straight to PayPal. You're going to just be able to pay the $199 on your credit card or your PayPal account. None of that information comes to us. It's all done through PayPal. And then PayPal sends a snippet of information over to a third-party autoresponder, and that will immediately generate an email to you. You'll get that email saying, welcome to Awesome Scores. You've joined an elite group of students preparing for the ACT. And then in the body of that letter, you'll be able to register for the classes. And that's what you're really buying. You're buying that availability to register. You'll give them your name and email address, and they're going to mail you welcome letters. So now this has been a recorded webinar. We actually do this same thing live, so you'd have a chance to ask questions. And if you would like to do the live version, all you have to do is click on the portion of our landing page that has live webinars, and you'll be able to see this. But it's the same thing I'm doing right now. So, but if you have questions, also I want you to feel free to call me. It's 888-8-MY-MATH. That's an 800 number. It comes directly to me. And if you'd like to talk about how to get your child a better score, or if you want to know more information about the program, I'll be happy to, talk to you one-on-one. So, okay, I think that's going to wrap us up for today. And any way that I can help you, I'd be happy to do it. And we're looking forward to seeing you guys in our next class. Okay, thank you so much.